Meanwhile, despite calls to move or cancel the event, the National Rifle Association held its annual conference this weekend in Houston, just days and about 300 miles from the school where 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered in Uvalde, Texas. The event drew thousands of gun owners, protesters, and politicians. While some leaders, like Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who was scheduled to speak, backed out, a few did not, including Senator Ted Cruz and former President Donald Trump. Trump centered his message around school safety. Let's take a listen to a little bit of his remarks.
This is not about virtue cycling and signing. This is about blaming your enemies. No, we don't want to do that. This is about saving our children's lives. Yes, that's what we want to do. Surely we can all agree our schools should not be the softest target. Our schools should be the single hardest target in our country. And that's why, as part of a comprehensive school safety plan, it's time to finally allow highly trained teachers to safely and discreetly concealed carry. Let them concealed carry. As the age-old saying goes, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Have you ever heard that? No, you've never heard that.
But despite the somber timing, the former president made sure to take the opportunity to cover some of his other favorite points, like the 2020 election, the border, and President Biden. He also did a little dance as he left stage at the end of his speech. Senator Cruz, meanwhile, he parroted a talking point he's used several times since the shooting, offering a revisionist history of his failed gun legislation.
I've introduced legislation to say schools like this elementary school behind me can get federal grants to harden their security, to put in bulletproof doors, bulletproof glass, to put in armed police officers to protect kids. $1.3 billion in federal funds that are available. Again, the Democrats blocked a vote on it. And I got to say, this is frustrating here.
However, the Washington Post explains how his Grassley-Cruz amendment to a background checks bill would not have stopped the Sutherland Springs church gunman, as Cruz alleges. The paper notes this. I'm going to read from it. Amendments aplenty were proposed and defeated. The one from Cruz and Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa would have removed the core of the gun bill, the expanded background checks. The Grassley-Cruz plan instead proposed more prosecutions of gun buyers who falsely stated their criminal histories during the background check process. Cruz's amendment would not have prevented any of the 6 specific protocol failures at the Air Force that allowed Kelly, that was the shooter, to slip through the cracks. The record-keeping and reporting changes that Cruz's office referenced already were being implemented by the Justice Department years before the shooting. Joining us now, national political correspondent at Politico, David Siders. David has new reporting detailing the conspiracy theories swirling around the NRA convention this past weekend. David, I know you were there. Thank you for joining us. Let's start there. What are some of the conspiracy theories you heard in Houston?
Well, I think in the main, you heard people saying that this was more mainstream arguments from Republicans, that this was about mental health or hardening schools. But yeah, the conspiracy theories are vague and ludicrous. It's a lot of people asking the question, why was this 3 days ago? That can't be a coincidence. I heard floated to me this idea that the left uses shadowy forces to take control of troubled youths and then to help, to use them to make Republicans or gun owners look bad. And I mean, I think that's where the real crux of this is. It's beyond the kind of hard conspiracy theory to something softer, but almost more troubling, which is this idea that the left is responsible for this because of like leftist education. And it's just turning something, the graves are being dug and it's already turned into a culture war where you have this set of people in Houston who think that they are victims too. Part of this kind of grievance politics.
So, David, give us the overall sense of the mood of the attendees at the convention in Houston, and in particular, their reaction to former President Trump's speech.
Hugely supportive of former President Trump's speech. I think that that's exactly his audience and his crowd. And I would say that the mood was undeterred. Everybody, 201, says that what happened in Uvalde was a tragedy. But I didn't get a sense that there was any, there was some grumbling about musicians who pulled out, for example, about Republicans who might not come. I mean, that was looked at as people being soft or rhinos. And that's why I think I'm so skeptical of this legislation, is that we're just not in a place in politics right now where compromise is rewarded, right? Because you look at what the base reaction is, and it's always, how hard are you on our side?
So, Mike Barnicle, we talked about this at the end of last week. The NRA is not quite the political force that it used to be. They had a major financial scandal. Some leaders had to step down in disgrace. They don't spend the money nearly that they used to in political campaigns, but yet they still seem to have such extraordinary influence over the party. Do you see that waning at all, in the wake of these two horrible mass shootings in a fortnight?
Jonathan, we should play that clip again of former President Trump. In just a brief clip that we just played, this is madness. Madness. This is Memorial Day. And for years, for decades, Memorial Day, people would gather at the town common. There'd be a parade to memorialize those dead in wars fought by this country. We have another war going on in this country. And it's a war against common sense. It's a war against the incompetence and the cowardice of certain politicians, many of them in the United States Senate. And we have sloganeering going on. Trump just used one of the most ludicrous slogans ever. It takes a good guy with a gun to take a bad guy out. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you could employ that slogan in a different way today. Guns don't kill people. Senators do. Senators who don't do their jobs. Senators who don't recognize the common sense scenarios that could maybe alleviate the slaughter of children in scene after scene. And the most offensive thing is to hear people get on TV, some of them very well-meaning, and saying we have to do this in order to make sure that these things end, ensure that this doesn't happen again. But you know what? It does happen again, and it will happen again, and it will go on and on and on, because the United States Senate will not pass a common sense solution, partial solution to what's going on. Mental health is surely an issue, but the idea that universal background checks won't help, the idea that raising the age of being able to purchase an assault rifle, an AR-15 until you're 21, not 18, wouldn't help. That is ridiculous. Of course it would help. David, I'm sorry to involve you in basically, a wearying and emotional argument about what we saw. But again, back to your point about the potential legislation that Senator Chris Murphy, God love him, is talking about. Is there any shot at all, in your view, that anything specific, anything concrete, anything helpful would ever pass?
Well, we should take Senator Murphy at his word that he's more optimistic than he has been in the past. But I think here is the limitation. It's that you see majorities of Americans supporting some stricter measures, right? And even in Texas, there's support, even among Republicans in Texas, for some measures. But what's very effective for Republicans to do is to use this slippery slope argument. That turns out to be a very effective argument in politics. And so I do think that that's the limitation and kind of the reason that these Republicans are insulated from taking action. There just isn't an incentive to have compromise in today's politics. Look at what happened on an infrastructure bill, for goodness sakes. We're talking about bridges and roads, and there have been Republicans who are getting dragged for it. I really do think it's two teams and culture war that Republicans view this as, and gun owners and the NRA. I don't think there's a huge incentive to compromise.